I invited Ms. Willette Neijmeijer, a piano teacher and a music studio owner from Saskatoon, Canada, who also serves as an assistant to Irina, correct?
Correct.
All right. So thank you for joining us, Willette. The reason for including you to this episode is your affiliation as one of the many graduates of the Gorin Institute and your advocacy for Irina's methodology, along with your usage of her musical journey series. And I'm so excited to get to hear about how Irina's method books and methodologies and courses at the Gorin Institute have truly transformed and revolutionized your approach to piano teaching and impacted your students. So tell us about your current status as a piano teacher.
Well, I've always been a part-time piano teacher. I worked in the school system as a home economics teacher, but I never wanted to drop teaching music students. I've always loved it. And I started when I was 19. I had my ARCT level that's in Canada for teaching. And I've always maintained a small studio. So I have a lot of experience, but always with a small group. I never had to deal with burnout of big groups. The largest studio I ever had was 28 students. But when I was working full-time outside the home, I had 3 to 6 students on average in a week because I would just work a couple of evenings a week. So that prevented a lot of burnout. It was just a wonderful, uplifting thing to do in the middle of the rest of my life. My training is from the Victoria Conservatory of Music. I had some really wonderful teachers there. Mm-hmm. I had some pedagogical training there for 2 years, and it always served me well. But I always felt I was missing something. There was something more that I just couldn't grasp. It wasn't part of my training. And that's when I discovered Irina.
Okay. But before we get into the challenging part, how many courses did you take? Did you do them all?
Irina started during COVID, and she has 4 levels at the moment. And the 4th level, I'm in it for the 2nd year running because we create it together. We decide what we wish to explore and learn. We set the subject matter. We can post videos of things we are learning ourselves or our students. We're teaching our students advice. And it isn't just Irina that helps us. It's the whole group. We have this amalgamation of these incredible teachers from around the world who gather, and we're like hive mind. We contribute all these ideas. It's a wonderful growth opportunity because, as most piano teachers know, it can be a very isolating experience. So, and during COVID, when we were so isolated, her course saved us. We made friends from all over the world, and we were there once a week online, working hard and learning so much.
Wow. So, let's get into how Irina's methodology at the Gorin Institute impacted your piano teaching journey and, changed the course, I'm sure, of your teaching career. So where were you as a piano teacher before meeting Irina or before discovering her methods?
I've always enjoyed teaching. I didn't feel stuck, but I felt I was missing something, that it was limiting. I was doing a good job, but I knew there was more. And then as I discovered, her name came up through YouTube and everything, I was watching how she was working with these very young children, 4 years old. And I knew I would never dare to work with a 4-year-old. And I just didn't know how. I didn't have the tools for it. And the freedom and the emotional maturity with which they played was astonishing to me. And I wanted that for my students. I just wanted to be a teacher that could do that for my students. So when COVID came and she was offering this course, this online course, I wrestled with it a bit. I wondered, well, am I going to do this? Am I going to pay for this and do this? And my rationale for it was, if I even get 2 really good ideas that will help my students in the future, this will be worth it. And I had to laugh at myself because after the first session, I had written down 17 tools I could immediately apply to my teaching and that I use to this day. Each one of the times we get together are packed full of ideas and different approaches and wisdom and encouragement. Incredible encouragement. You no longer feel alone as a music teacher. And so how has it changed my teaching? I would definitely feel comfortable teaching young ones now. I will never teach a 5-finger approach again. I love her non-legato approach to playing and starting with the 3rd finger. It has allowed my students to develop a natural hand shape, free their wrist, their arm weight, and they're learning to really listen to their sound, not just the middle of the sound. They're learning to listen to the edge, the first edge of the sound and the last edge of the sound, like to train their ears to really listen. And what I love about her methodology is the quality of the music. They are short pieces for quite a while. So students get a lot of repertoire. They're learning a lot of music because it's short and they learn it quickly, probably 2 lessons, sometimes 3 lessons. And it's so pedagogically rich, all of the items she's picked, and they're so carefully scaffolded that, the whole first book is non-legato and it's quality music. They have duets with it, or you can have recorded accompaniments with it. Students love it. Such variety. And it really trains my students for classical music. It is so rich emotionally, and it uses the whole imagination landscape of a child. So they are expressing a picture with their sound rather than just playing notes and feeling a rhythm. And so for me, it's just such a rich musical start for these young children. And I haven't found any other North American music methods that use this approach. Before I started with Irina's course, I was using Music Tree, which I loved for the way it taught students to read music. It stayed out of positions, but it got into legato far too soon. So this is just a much, much better beginning for my students. So,
Wow.
And they're just more involved. I see more enthusiasm. It's just a more enriching way to teach. Hard to describe, but when you see the sparkle in your students' eyes, or they start chuckling with you because their sad kitten did not sound very sad. It sounded mad, and then they change their whole body posture and their whole approach to the sound. And suddenly they've got this very sad kitten in this piece. And it's just remarkable to see it. So,
Wow. Now, you just told us like specific things that changed the way you approach teaching young children. But overall, what stands out by, taking her classes, courses, and that are different from others?
she's a master pedagogue, and I never got taught polyphony the way she teaches it. So things in the Baroque era, I'm looking at in a completely different way, teaching them in a completely different way. It's all about quality of sound, efficiency of movement, tension and release. It's just become so refined. It becomes very detailed as we progress further in the course. So it has changed my own playing. And I can help, like I get transfer students. It's rare for me to get a student, because I have such a small studio, to get a student right from the beginning. I've only had one student since I've taken the course that I could start right from the beginning. But I transfer those skills, and I use some of her slightly later level books with my transfer students so that they get to review. And it's usually about hand alignment and gathering the hand into a more natural position. Those are some of the things that I often have to remediate, as well as they're usually terrible at reading, or they're not following the fingering, or they use the fingering to read the notes. And that doesn't work in her method, because when you move from a 1 to a 2, you're not moving a second. You might be moving to a third. And so they start to have to read the notes, and they become very detailed. They start paying attention to slurs, ends of slurs, and how do you finish a phrase? What is the sound you want? They start noticing when you're bumping a phrase. So it's all this refinement. Yeah.
So, sounds like it's an ideal way of approaching young children teaching classical piano playing, but not in a strict way.
Oh, yeah. Irina is so gentle and loving with her students. She never accepts students based on talent. She will accept any student if they have the proper family support. If they have a proper piano, they're willing to help the young child practice this sort of thing. And she'll take on transfer students as well. As long as they're really keen to be there, she will teach them. And she is so kind. And she encourages all of us to be kind and respectful, because we have to understand when a child is struggling or may possibly even misbehaving. what is really going on with that child? And it always, always comes from a place of respect. There's also authority there.
Wow. Yeah, that's a like a really ideal character as a teacher, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about Irina Gorin herself. What qualities, you mentioned a little bit, what characters does she possess that make her an exceptional person and mentor to you?
She is very, very humble. She is open to discussion on anything. She is incredibly generous with her time and her knowledge. I often find music teachers are very territorial and they want to hold their information close to their chest and they want their studio to excel and they've got students competing. And she is about helping everybody bloom. And she wants to help teachers who can help then those students. Her goal with teaching music is to create more empathic human beings who love music and who are self-expressive. That's her goal. And it really hurts her to see children struggling with tight hands and claws and sitting improperly and banging the piano and very percussive sound. She knows what children are capable of. So her generosity stands out, her kindness, her respectfulness, and she has this amazing ability to zero in on the one thing that will make the most impact in someone's playing. And I was lucky enough to visit her. She just welcomes us with open arms. We go to visit, and she gives me some lessons. And in the hour and a half, I was playing Bach and Debussy and Mendelssohn, and every piece that I played for her, she would find 2 or 3 things that were so impactful that would raise it to the next level. It was remarkable.
Wow. You also get to take piano lessons from her.
Well, I did. I went down one summer for a few days and learned from her and watched her teach. And you are able to have Zoom lessons with her online if you wish. I've only done one of those. It was very, very helpful. But yeah, no, she's so generous with her time. And again, humble. I can't recommend the course enough. If there are piano teachers out there who are feeling stale or stagnant or struggling, saying, how do I deal with certain issues? If they even just take the first level, it will solve so many issues for all the future years of their beginner students. It is such dense, rich material that is easily applied. It's a huge learning curve, but it is so worth it. It will make their lessons so much more joyous and involving. They will get far better results with their students, greater involvement with their students. I can't recommend it enough. I think people hesitate sometimes because they don't want to pay, and the courses are priced very reasonably. We can't believe what we get for the money. Or they just feel like they can't keep up. Their lives are so busy, they can't keep up with the course. But everybody that's joined, some of them say, yes, I can't keep up, but this is so good. And everybody says they've just never encountered such a worthwhile course before in their lives.
Willette, thank you again for joining this testimonial segment of Irina's episode.